NBCNews.com senior White House reporter Shannon Pettypiece joining me now. Shannon, what kind of push is the White House planning this week for President Biden's COVID relief plan? And is he meeting with any lawmakers this week about it?
Well, they're going to have to compete with the Senate impeachment trial, which is going to take up a lot of attention for people watching news or on Twitter or online or wherever they get their news. That is going to become the dominant story, at least for the rest of this week. But the White House is trying to keep this campaign going to put pressure on members of Congress to pass their COVID relief bill. The press secretary today indicated that President Biden will meet with some members of Congress, at least communicate with them directly, whether in person or over the phone. We also know that the White House is going to start reaching out to governors, local elected officials, to try and ramp up the pressure on them to encourage members of Congress from their state to support this package. So, the White House wants this to be COVID, COVID, COVID. This is their #1 priority. They do not want to engage on impeachment. They have repeatedly avoided questions about what the president's position is, what type of timeline they would like to see. And so they are trying to do as much as they can to steer the focus back to their response to the coronavirus pandemic, despite this second impeachment trial going on right now.
Shannon, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the country has a deep hole in the job market. What is she saying about digging out of that and getting people in this country back to work?
The Treasury Secretary is echoing a lot of the lines that we have heard from President Biden, that if we don't act now, it's going to take us a lot longer to get back to where we were before the pandemic. Here is how she described it just the other day.
The Congressional Budget Office issued an analysis recently, and it showed that if we don't provide additional support, the unemployment rate is going to stay elevated for years to come. There's absolutely no reason why we should suffer through a long, slow recovery.
Do you have a timeline, though, for full reemployment?
Well, I would expect that if this package is passed, that we would get back to full employment next year.
And Allison, she's also a big supporter of these direct payments, these $1,400 checks. She said that people making $60,000 a year should be able to receive them. They shouldn't be going to households making $300,000 a year. But in that lower income, middle income category of workers, she wants to see checks going to people there.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more. The Biden administration considering further limiting the eligibility on stimulus checks. Some Democrats are not on board with that concept. Here's Senator Bernie Sanders.
Now, when people said we don't want rich people to get that benefit, I understand that. I agree. But to say to a worker in Vermont or California or any place else that if you're making, $52,000 a year, you are too rich to get this help, the full benefit, I think that that's absurd.
Shannon, what are you hearing from your sources? Do we have a sense yet of where that threshold might be, or kind of if they've gotten it at least into a range, if you will?
Well, White House officials tell us this is one of the things on the negotiating table yet, and we don't really know where that range is going to fall. But you can see this divide that really could have been expected in the Democratic Party between the progressive wing, the Bernie Sanders wing, and the Joe Manchin, more moderate wing, who, is not for a $15 minimum wage, for example, where you see that's another issue that Bernie Sanders is supporting. So this is one of the things that's going to be hammered out. But, among Democrats, it's not a question about whether people should get a check. It's who should get a check. And that is an improvement, at least, from where Democrats and Republicans stand right now.
Shannon, you mentioned minimum wage. The Congressional Budget Office has a new report out that says raising it to $15 would pull 900,000 people out of poverty, but cost 1.4 million jobs by 2025. What is the administration saying on this one, given the president is in favor of a minimum wage hike?
So administration officials have played down these analyses that show the minimum wage increase has a negative impact on jobs. And they've talked about the dire situation that we are in currently with people out of work and the really high unemployment numbers we're facing at the moment. I will say one thing about this CBO report, and we'll see how this plays out. It also says that this would add to the deficit, okay, which also doesn't sound like a good thing. But for Democrats, it could be, because that could allow it to go through this budget reconciliation process if it has a budgetary element to it.
Right. Shannon Pettypiece with the latest out of the White House. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.